Brilliant. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to the Eskimi Brand Summit. I was going to wish everyone a good morning and I suddenly realized I'm in Dubai and it's 1 o'clock and I'm on the Eskimi Don't Be Boring global tour. So wherever you are in the world, I'm thrilled to have you here as we come together to explore the power of creativity and attention and how that impacts brands in shaping the open web. First, a huge thank you to our incredible panel of speakers who have taken the time to share their insights with us today. Their expertise and perspectives will challenge us to think differently and show us what we need to do as the change in our industry comes much faster and the innovation cycles get much shorter. It's my pleasure to welcome Martin Coppola, Creative Director at McCann, Ku Kovender, CEO of Publicis Group Africa, Ben Demon, Global Commercial Director at Lumen Research and a partner of Eskimi, Marteta Havelek Lienenberg, Chief Data and Digital Marketing Officer at L'Oreal, and last but not least, Fiorenzo Pilluno, Global Head of Creative Excellence at Cannes Lions. And of course, your host for the day is my esteemed colleague, Philip Mailer, our CEO at Eskimi. At Eskimi, we believe the future of digital advertising is not about boring reach. It's about relevance, creativity, and impact. It's about storytelling. It's about having the discipline and the curiosity to appease and to reappraise and to push for the exceptional, which will deliver positive returns. In my opinion, not all impressions are equal. And in an increasingly fragmented digital space, capturing attention has never been more critical. Creativity isn't just a nice to have, it's a performance driver. The right creative execution doesn't just need to be seen, it needs to be remembered. Our mission is simple, don't be boring. Our rallying cry is, boring is expensive. So this summit is about sparking ideas, learning from one another, and discovering new ways to bring real value to the open web. And I'm pleased to say that we have a broad panel covering nearly every aspect of the industry. And I'm super excited to hand over to our panelists, our speakers, for what I know will be an inspiring session and a meaningful discussion ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
I had a sudden horror that I dropped off and no one was here and I'd been
No,
talking.
we're here. We're here. We're monitoring. We're seeing more and more people join, so that's amazing. There we go. So today I will be talking about connected chaos, so mastering impact in media's new normal. So to start off this, I want to give a little bit of an introduction to the mission controls. So today we're starting with the history of advertising, just to ensure that we're all there in terms of what has happened the last 4,000 years. I won't go that much into detail. I'll talk a little bit about the media landscape and the fragmentation, the attention and impact, and how to connect all of this creativity together. So starting off with the history of advertising. You see a dinosaur. I won't go that far back, but I love the emoji. So the birth of advertising traces back to the ancient civilizations where public notices were carved in steel or stone to announce trade or public events. So we've actually found ruins of Pompeii, some election promotions and gladiator games. Moving a couple of thousand years forward, we go to the print revolution where Johannes Gutenberg's invention of the movable type printing press revolutionized advertising by making it a lot more accessible and affordable. And what really moved the needle was the era of newspapers in the 1600s, where they began to feature paid advertising, make them a primary medium for commercial messaging. And for marketers, interest-based targeting, we saw the rise of magazines in the 1700s, making them even more effective. Then we come to the golden age, where billboards are invented, radio took off in the 20s, offering new dynamic ways to reach a vast listening audience. We saw television become major, combining visual and audio, and then direct mail era, where mail became even more sophisticated and using customer data for personalized marketing. And then the glory days of print. This is my favorite advertising era, so big fan of Mad Men and all these shows. So creativity and copywriting in print really peaked, in my opinion, and some of these iconic campaigns can be seen to this day. Pushing back to the last 30 years, where a lot of things have happened, it's been a wild ride for us. We've been with most of it. I still remember the first time I saw an ad on the internet. So we began with the revolution in digital in the 90s primarily, and we saw how this transformed how companies reached and interacted with consumers. And then in the 2000s, Google revolutionized advertising by allowing businesses to target ads based on user search inquiries. And then Mark Zuckerberg and friends helped us see the rise of social media platforms with targeting users based on intent, interest, and behaviors, right? And now we're in the area of and the age of advertising overload. So AR, VR, AI, they are already transforming advertising. And some of the things we'll talk about today is also attention measurement, privacy first, and sustainability, channel diversification, 3- and 4-letter advertising acronyms. And these all advertisers are exposed to on a daily basis. So this emphasizes the complexity of what is actually happening in all these channels, all of those markets, all those formats. So to give a little bit of context and bring it to the point that in 1965, a single TV ad could reach 80% of America. Today, reaching that same audience would require 247 channels. And yes, I'll be the first to say that the 247 is not a statistically correct number. I just made it up. It's a hyperbole, but I think the point still stands. We have traded simplicity for scale, but at what cost? So looking at some of the things when it relates to the media landscape, which is one of the big switch around the world, is that we see it's never been bigger. Like the complexity is ever growing. Lots of new channels, new ways of measuring are taken over, and brands and advertisers, they have to navigate a very complex mix of channels. So each of these touch points requires different strategy, and it makes it a lot more harder to reach and engage audience effectively. So the key challenge is still, as Paul was mentioned, is cutting through the noise, making sure that you're not boring, you have a creative impact, the messaging is adapted to each channel, and you actually maintain brand consistency. So looking into one of my most favorite pieces of content by Eskimi's marketing team is we see the big 6 holdco, and each of these giants own a network of agencies that span creative, media, data, and technology. And many of you here today will be working here. I saw the invite list. We have a couple of hundred people from these places, so hopefully you're enjoying this. So this, of course, consolidates a lot at global scale, and it makes a lot more efficiency, but it also has some challenges, right? So advertisers, the expectation is higher than ever. They want integrated solutions, they want deep expertise, they want measurable impact, and at a lower cost than before. So while this side offers a lot more centralization and uniformity, the media landscape challenges this and other structures. So the current fragmentation of channels, formats, technology, and demand for quality and performance is breaking the standard model when we come to the competitive landscape. So we see an explosion of channels. We see the brands must navigate social, streaming, retail, influencers, gaming, DOH, podcasts, and a lot more. So the budgets are also being split across these platforms, making it harder to achieve scale. And each of these platforms have different metrics, attribution models, and data restrictions, and making it even harder before. And of course, consumers are bombarded with thousands of ads every day across multiple screens, making the impact a lot harder. And in the rush to be everywhere, brands risk ruining this by running generic templated ads that, instead of having an impactful creative, they get lost in digital. So this is something I made up. I took a lot of sources, but the main point of this, that it's not just about buying the right placements, it's about the balance between reach, engagement, and impact across a fragmented ecosystem. So really evaluating what you're trying to achieve with each brief, with each long-term campaign, with the strategy overall. So each of these formats and channels have their own strengths. Some drive awareness, some other direct conversions, but true efficiency actually comes from integrating them all strategically. So you need to optimize spend, measure performance holistically, and you ensure creative consistency across touchpoints. So focusing only on a single metric of these will lead to failure, And we're actually already seeing this in many places. So agencies as a whole are incentivized to solve a problem. They get briefs from advertisers, and they sometimes end up being rewarded for something that actually makes the situation worse. So a great example of this can be seen when taking some of the latest data on average viewability and seconds in view. So we at Eskimi are no strangers to the request for viewability above all else, combined with the lowest CPMs. But we can see from data that advertisers are beginning to over-optimize for viewability with technology, shortcuts, manual work. But they're beginning to forget a lot more on the other side of the equation, right? So real engagement, real attention that moves the needle when it comes to brand impact. So the question is, what actually moves the needle? And this is a not so subtle intro to our next line item, and this is attention and impact, which is something very close to my heart. And we'll also have Ben from Lumen do a much better presentation on this. They have some amazing data, some amazing people. But to give us our input on this, I wanted to give you a picture of two Javan rhinos. So these rhinos are the most endangered species on the planet, with only 76 individuals left. And I don't want to trivialize this important situation, but to compare, when it comes to the world of advertising, attention has become the most endangered resource. And we have to be careful of it. We have to be custodians of attention, and we have to treat it with respect, right? We can always trick people into watching, doing something, but it has to have with a long-term effect of treating this with the effect that it needs. So to start off with, we have to explain what is advertising. It's not everyone who's been working with it. So in advertising, attention means that you're capturing and keeping your audience focused. So some of the effective strategies use repetition, emotional appeal, and visual cues to engage and drive sales. So what we as marketers can do is to have this insight and design campaigns that truly capture attention and influence decisions. So what's worth noting is that attention is selective, it is limited, and it's voluntary. So these are some of the three crucial factors for advertisers if they want to progress in attention advertising. So attention advertising focuses on reaching your audience when they're most engaged and just showing ads. It measures how well the audience interacts with it and absorbs the content. So some of the key aspects include engagement metrics. So you can track interactions like sharing, commenting, not just views. Also using relevancy. So you ensure ads that are relevant to users at the moment they see them. Contextual understanding. So you deliver ads that are suited to where users are in their buy journey. And then emotional resonance, where you can create ads that evoke emotions for better recall and retention. So as I mentioned earlier on my example on viewability and view time, so I wanted to share some of the data from a study that Dentsu performed with Lumen Research, explored how attention impacts advertising outcomes, and they worked with Teads, Meta, Alphabet, Twitter, and others. And some of the key finding is that 81% of ads that we as platforms or providers label as viewable are actually unseen, while 25% of these unviewable ads are seen. So this is actually a very big difference in how we would perceive this. So it creates a clear picture that something is off with only using a metric like viewability. So why do we want to lean more towards attention? So why is all this talk about attention so important? It's important because it has a much higher rate of predictability than awareness, and up to 7 times more effective at predicting awareness and 6 times more effective at predicting brand recall than viewability. So that is one of the main important parts. And of course, there's lots of research going on behind here. We have some of these articles as well from Kantar, Ipsos, and it just shows that creative and attention are at the forefront of effective advertising. So it helps you create a true brand impact. So for example, the Kantar research shows that creative quality can generate more than 4 times as much profit. So that is one of the main metrics we as advertisers should be looking for. So when it comes to attention, so what are we actually measuring? So we humans, we love to quantify things, especially us in advertising. And as mentioned earlier, we have become obsessed with viewability as a metric. And one of the newer metrics that I'm personally a bigger fan of, and a growing industry standard, is using attentive seconds per thousand impressions, or APM. So these are attention metrics based on extensively researched and validated models to help inform performance across campaigns based on attention as a key metric. So the example below here is from Lumen research, where it goes to show that 1,000 TV ad impressions will get you about 6,000 attentive seconds. So this lets us compare attention across different medias more easily. And in practice, this setup is quite simple. So we use Lumen internally here at Eskimi as well to measure how much attention users give to our ads in real time. So it's 3 easy steps. It's you add the tag to our campaigns, you get the real-time performance report, and afterwards you get the results, and you can compare it to benchmarks to identify under or overperforming placements and creatives for optimization. So those are one of the numbers to look at. It's APM. Another one that I'm a big fan of is eyes on dwell time. It's actually just viewing ad viewing operation, so where you can find how long people actually look at ads for. So these are some of the metrics, and we can of course see that on average, people spend about 13.8 seconds watching a 30-second TV ad. So, of course, the viewing time varies, with some watching the full and others only a few seconds. But getting these data points is immensely valuable when you're designing campaigns. So how does this actually look in action, right? So people love examples. So this is an example we did together with Publicis Group and Cadbury, where we created a campaign including Lumen measurements to see how their ad performed, comparing it towards benchmarks. So we can see a 27% increase in APM compared to the benchmarks. It was really showcasing the power of quality, innovative formats, and also just having these numbers presented to clients is a huge win in terms of validity and actually showcasing that you're providing value, not just sharing out pixel spam into the ether. So another amazing quote that I love, and I haven't been able to trace the origin of it. So someone please find me on LinkedIn afterwards and share the origin if you know. But what impressions do we actually want to make? So it doesn't matter how many impressions you make, it's the impressions you make that count. I really love that. And imagine you could see what customers see before they see it and understand how much attention is on your key elements in your creatives. So at Eskimi, we've been using a tool called Neurons the last 6 months, and it's using cutting-edge advances in cognitive neuroscience, machine learning, AI, and psychology to help us create better ad experiences impact. So these are the new tools we're seeing growing more and more in the markets, and the space is essentially makes them essential for creating impactful creatives moving forward. So we're using not just our own gut feeling, we're using actual science to validate and pre-test and optimize these things. So the science behind it is quite impressive. So I've been following their founder, Dr. Thomas Ramser, for the last 10 years, and it's amazing what they've done. They've tested over 100,000 people worldwide. They've used eye tracking, EEG, an in-house research team, neuropsychology, and consumer neuroscience, and they're essentially mapping the human brain response to ads. So this is a really valuable tool, and it's not only fun to play around with, it actually has an impact. So the main metrics that they look at is ad performance benchmark. So looking at focus, how well is your asset capturing and holding viewer attention? What is the cognitive demand? So what is the complexity of visual information your viewers need to process? What's the memory? Like how likely your ad is to be remembered after a quick glance? And the engagement. What is the emotional appealment of the ad on the gut reaction? So those are some of the metrics we want to go in for. And what is very amazing with this tool is that you give brief, you give insights, you give the context. So is it a display ad? Is it a meta ad? Is it offline? Is it a performance related one? And it helps you give benchmarks in terms of where you want to be, where your ad should be. So this is an example we did internally. So just changing only colors and objects in the banner can have a very big impact on engagement and memory. So here you can see that the vast improvement, engagement, and memory hits the desired benchmark outcome. So just changing these things, of course, this doesn't make sense for most brands to just change their brand color. It's an example we just quickly created to show you how that is done. Another example of this is, of course, the impact of attention per element in areas of interest by changing colors as the primary element. So an AOI stands for area of interest. And I predict that connecting science and creative in the blend hereof will become a lot more drastic in the futures. So Here you can see analyzing the best product performance, the best CTA, best logo performance, best headline, based on just simply changing the colors and how our brains perceive this. So the science behind this is growing even more. And I think when I say we've solved the brain, it might be hyperbole, but I think this is only the beginning of what's possible. So when we want to creatively connect the disconnect, I'm talking a lot more about the creative part. Of course, there's a lot more, but actually making it all come together is important. And a talk about creativity in 2025 without mentioning our AI overlords would be forbidden. So I had to put it in here. I came across this last week on LinkedIn, so forgive me if there's some accuracy on the source, but I think my point will still stand. So to the left, you'll see a high-value production created by Coca-Cola with an estimated production cost of about $300,000. And to the right of it is a fan-generated ad for Pepsi copied using Gen AI with an estimated cost of about $400. So the question is, why aren't we seeing more of these? When it's so easy to create, why isn't social media overflowing with amazing creatives, not only done by fans, but actually brands themselves? I think the point is that being creative and original is where the real value comes from. And it's tough, it's hard. And this is where we've seen people with many years of experience in this industry just have a much better framework for making this happen, right? So one thing I mentioned earlier is the golden age of print is still my favorite, because here personalities and daring to be proactive, being original, it was the time that really stood out. I think we can get that again. But I think using AI for creation and not ideation is where a lot of this should happen. So that is the first point for AI here. And when it comes to embracing formats and channels that allow for maximum attention, you need to be focusing a lot more on quality than quantity. So it doesn't matter if it's rich media, if it's display, if it's meta, if it's digital out of home, like quality is key. So an example from our side is we've seen a lot of great results coming from 3D formats outperforming attention benchmarks by over 50%. So these are our averages. And it's amazing to see that once you put a little bit more work into both the design, the creative, the interaction, we just see these things naturally being rewarded. Gamified solutions is another one of our key things where we see a lot of powerful ways to engage users. So creating personalized one-on-one moments between brand and consumers. And they don't only drive higher retention rate, but also provide an excellent platform for product education and brand awareness. So a stat says that 94% of consumers who engage with brands are more likely to buy again. And that makes a lot of sense looking at the data points. So when we measure, we have to measure holistically. So just don't focus on last click. Like, you got to move beyond these silos approach. You got to measure the full funnel of the length of the funnel. So brand impact, attention, all across. And as I mentioned, too many mistakes have been done in the past trying to over-index on the performance. I think this is where we need to think bigger, think longer term as brands and brand curators when we talk about the agency side. So a recent study by Nielsen, well, not that recent, but a study by Nielsen from Google showed that a 1% increase in brand awareness leads to a 0.4% increase in short-term sales and 0.6% increase in long-term sales. So the correlation between brand awareness is something that for many sound fluffy, and something I've heard a lot of agencies talk positively about is still correlated with sales. So we're still seeing this, and we should see it more. So I emphasize, if I can do one thing today and ask everyone to do a CTA, it is to do a brand live study the next 3 months. That is my only ask today. I don't care who you do it with, but please do it and have a process in place for this. You've got to start at one point. The last slide on this area will be talking a little bit about blending the science and creativity. So some of the lessons learned from big data on creativity is avoid the corner of death. So this is where you don't want to place your ads. We still do it. We still get requests from it. We can convey and we can try to convince people, but people are still wanting to do that. So please avoid this. If I can give a recommendation to all agencies and brands, please avoid this. It is just the corner of death when it comes to attention on that end. So faces, they draw attention. So This is something we've learned from an early age. Use it carefully. You don't want it to take full attention away from your product, but a friendly face can make your brand seem more likable or trustworthy. Remember, seeing your ad should feel enjoyable and easy, so don't make it confusing. The clearer it can become. Have as few messages and CTAs as you can. And then talking about attention is universal. That's why I love it. I think it's why it's one of those things in the industry that is going to be growing a lot more. And it's coherent, it's universal behavior. So there are minor regional differences, but overall, the attention patterns are consistent globally. So men and women respond extremely similar to images from different advertised categories. So does this all mean that we've solved creativity and attention? Well, of course we haven't. Like this is a 25-minute presentation, but just wanted to give some insights into this. And if I had to create a simple equation and keeping it simple and summarize this, I think our world is very complex. It is chaotic. And if you could dial it down to one thing, I would put it down to a final equation. I think advertising is a mix of science and art and will still become that in the future. But taking the art aside, I think we should all memorize this equation when we want to start the brief for our next campaign. So you got to ensure that you work on channels that is in a combined media mix reaches your desired audience. You got to do that enough times so you ensure your ads get seen. And you got to do the creative formats that allow for maximum attention. So although the world of advertising might seem a little bit more chaotic than it used to be, it's important to step back and remember the basics. So clarity trumps persuasion. That is it. Thank you from my end here. Boom, boom. We have some more amazing speakers. One of the first one here to join is Martin Coppola, as you mentioned. He is the creative director for McCann and ex-global creative lead for Google for Lego Group. And he brings 21 years of experience from creative tip. And today we have Martin present the crafting a culture of innovation.
So, okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this talk. So today I would like to talk about something that every company claims to value, that is innovation. But I've been thinking, and actually what does it really takes to build a culture where creativity can thrive. And that's what this talk it's about. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself so you know who I am, where I'm coming from. So I'm a creative director. Currently, I'm in McCann Erickson. Well, it's not McCann Erickson anymore. It's McCann World Group in Singapore. This is my second time in Singapore. I've been working in advertising, design, and branding for more than 20 years. I live across 3 different continents. I live 5 different countries, and I work for a lot more markets. And I have seen, experienced by firsthand what fuels innovation and what can kill it, right? So, and this talk is not just about theory. It's about what I have experienced in my journey, and that's what the things that I wanted to share with you. So through my career, and this is not just to pat my own shoulder, but I've been winning local awards, regional awards, and global awards, and not just because I was chasing the recognition. Besides that, we know that the industry is how, or in the advertising industry is how we measure success. But it's just because I work with teams across all these different offices, countries, and markets that they thrive on pushing creative boundaries. So today, I just wanted to share my point of view on how companies can move beyond the buzzword of innovation and create environments where real creativity can emerge, evolve, and thrive meaningful change. So I would like to start talking and being clear on cleaning up a common misconception, right? Innovation isn't about being busy, and being busy isn't the same as being creative. So companies, or the companies that I work, or companies that I work with or for, they love to talk about innovation, but most of them are structured for efficiency and not creativity. They prioritize process over play. They prioritize deadlines over discovery and execution over exploration. So, and I was talking about how innovation is not about being busy, and busy isn't the same as being creative. And companies love to talk about innovation, but most of them are structured for efficiency and not creativity. That's why I think was where we stayed. And they are prioritizing playing, of course, over deadlines, execution over exploration. And again, on what is my experience, because I'm still seeing it in different companies that I'm working with, that the teams are busy, but they're not necessarily creative. So innovation doesn't come from being busy. It comes actually from from breaking patterns, questioning assumptions, and of course allowing space for the unexpected. So for creativity to thrive, and again, this is how I've been seeing in all this in my 20 years of journey in advertising. That to creativity to thrive, it's first there are like a few things that it needs, and one of the things I wanted to talk is about freedom of thinking, right? Ideas don't come when people is buried meetings and deliverables. This is not something that, I mean, I'm not discovering the anything here, right? Everyone knows that. You need permission also to experiment, and creativity, I think, again, in my experience or how I like to approach this, is that creativity flourishes when failure isn't punished, right? It need to be treated as a stepping stone. And then the third one, I mean, there are like a lot more, but I just took the three of one that I really feel are the more important, or was more important for me when I started in advertising. And it's a culture of curiosity. The best ideas, they don't come from knowing the answer, but it actually is coming from asking better questions. So if we really want to talk about, if you really want to innovate, right, we need to stop controlling, and we need to start controlling creativity actually, and start cultivating it. So so the best ideas are coming from, again, is unexpected connections, and great ideas often they're just unrelated thoughts colliding or clashing in a fresh way. Breaking habits, right? That's something that I in my time, as at least my first time in Singapore, is when I started like thinking all these ways. Is like we were breaking habits. We were not spending that much time in the office. Besides, of course, we need to be in the office. But I remember our ECD and CCO taking us out of the office to do different kind of things. So breaking habits, and again, this is something that I really believe. Routine thinking is going to lead to routine results, and innovation happens when we disrupt these familiar patterns. And of course, it's playing and exploring. I think that's the best part of creativity, or the part that I like the most. That the creativity isn't just a linear process, right? It thrives in moments of spontaneity and deep curiosity. So, and just for an example, some of the most groundbreaking ideas didn't come from sitting in a meeting room, and they come from curiosity, again, exploration, and breaking these habits. So we love to believe, and this is something that it happens a lot in advertising, or maybe not in advertising, but it's like, oh, you had this amazing idea, and everyone loves to believe in this, the lone genius, right? That single visionary who changed everything. But actually, real creativity doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. So just to take the example of Picasso, right? In Baquet, right? So the whole Cubist moment, right? It wasn't just Picasso. I mean, it's the one that everyone knows the most. but he wasn't doing it alone. He had a whole bunch of people, other artists working with him. But Barque worked side by side with him, and they were exchanging constantly, exchanging ideas and explorations and new ways of painting, a new way of exploring art. Another example that everyone's gonna know it, but it's Steve Jobs, right? So Steve Jobs said creativity is just connecting things. And the iPhone, it wasn't just a stroke of a genius. It wasn't just only Jobs who say like we need it's like this. We need to do it like this. This is gonna change the world. And it wasn't. I mean, he got inspired by Xerox, right? In the interface. Then in the design, he got inspired very heavily. If you see the picture in the middle, that is influenced by Sony. And of course, the details on how they not only the iPhone but all the Apple products they define the how refined is the design and even the typography and all that is coming from his calligraphy class and art classes that he took in college, right? So creativity isn't divine inspiration. It's about observing, remixing, and reimagining. And it needs space to grow. In most of the companies, at least in my experience, they don't know how to create that space. They fill it. They fill it with meetings, approvals, PowerPoint slides, and this is the most weird thing. But I've been there and I know how it is. And they make meetings to talk about having less meetings. Meetings, right? It's a little bit crazy, but it happens. Okay, so. And again, going a little bit back in being lucky enough to have been working in different places, show me something that I really believe that is for me it's undeniable truth. That is diversity fuels this innovation. Um, the most creative environments are those who bring together different cultures, disciplines, and perspectives. Most of the awarded ideas that I work, where I was lucky enough to be in the correct place and the correct time, they just didn't come from structured brainstorming sessions. We still had that meetings, right? Of course, we need to have them, but actually the ideas normally they were coming from having a beer after office with one of my teammates or my copywriter or my art director, or going, like I was saying, going to a museum with the whole team, or going and watching weird movies, or just walking around, or just in a casual dinner that is just with friends, and maybe there's someone of your friends who also is there in advertising. And just to say something about this picture, this is just like a small part of the team of my first time here in Singapore when I was working in Malen Law. I was in McCann at that time, and here is like, well, we have a Portuguese, Brazilian, Australian, Indian, Singaporean, Spanish, and well, myself from Uruguay. And this was just like a small portion of the team, and we were drinking wine after hours, right there in the office. So again, innovation it happens when we step outside of our industry, of our routine, in our usual way of thinking. But I would like to not only put this in words. I'm going to show you some of the hopefully the audio works also. Please let me know if it doesn't. Some of the ideas that we work with this team in different years. So the first one, it was my first year in Singapore, working with some of them, and then the second one was, I think, was the second year, and then I'm going to show you one more that it was my last work at Lego that I did there. That was really interesting, and I think the team also was a mix of people, backgrounds, religions, cultures, and I think it's, again, you're not gonna see that on the idea, but it's there, it's behind that. Okay, so please let me know if the audio is working. Yeah, so that idea, again, it didn't come out sitting in the desk. I don't recall exactly how the idea they came, but I remember talking about it in the morning that we read the news, and I think most of my team, we were shocked on what was happening, and then again talking about the news, and then we went out maybe to have lunch or something, and we start talking on what it could be fun. We had one of our colleagues that he is a hunter, and he was the one actually giving us that insight of like he's a hunter, because his father and his grandfather taught him how to be a hunter, right? So again, it's just that collaboration. This is another idea that it came also here from the office in Singapore. Yeah, I'm just gonna show it. Yeah, this idea also came, well, as me as being Uruguayan, it came from some of my colleagues just teasing me about what happened with Suarez at that time, Liverpool with Evra. So yeah, we actually start talking about what actually football means and represents around the world, and then this, I think, again, it didn't happen in the office. I don't remember exactly, but I think we were outside drinking beer after office, and they told me, "Do you see what happened with Suarez?" And we would start like talking, and then someone suggests like how important actually is football, and we came out with this idea that, of course, it's a little bit different from what it was at the beginning, but it happened. And to being honest, this I in all the places that I live, I never found a country like Singapore, how diverse and how all the different cultures, races, and religions, they live very peacefully here. So I think this was the perfect place to make this campaign. I'm gonna show you one more, and then I have just one couple of ideas that I want to share with you, and then I will just pass the ball to someone else. So this one is from Lego. Again, the team was very diverse. It took us a long time to do it, but I mean, you know the brand, you know the company, so enjoy it. Yeah, and this idea, besides start in a desk, because it's where we receive the brief, is where we start like creating it. I think we found the correct way of doing it when we went out of the office. Well, Lego offices in Billund. I was living in August. Some of my teammates were were living in Baile. So it was normal for us to be in the office, but actually for this one, what we tried was doing a little bit the opposite. So I host at my home breakfast, and then we walk around the city and we talk about a lot of things, different things, and then we come out with something that we really like, and the company will really like it. Again, this is how I like to approach the work. But going back to the innovation, that I know is not easy, because if it was easy, I think every company will be doing it. But the truth is, like, a lot of these organizations unintentionally resist to do. They're resisting to do it, and I think the biggest obstacles that they're finding in this, maybe that's why they are resisting, and it's like because like they work in silos, right? So innovation cannot happen between that. So innovation need to happen between disciplines, and not inside of these silos. So we need like some cross-pollination of ideas. We need to talk with our teams. And then other thing that I found, like the companies, the obstacles that they're finding is the overthinking. And I'm sure, like, maybe some of you had the same problem in meetings, that overthinking, because of the overthinking, millions of ideas are just dying in that meetings and approval circles, and before that even they have the chance to breathe, right? And then another thing that I found, mostly like working in big organizations and big companies, is the fear of failure, right? There's no space to failure, and if people don't feel safe experimenting, then they're not going to take any risk, and without that risk, there's no innovation. At least it's how I see it. So the best companies, they don't just talk about innovation, they design for it. And they try to create this culture where people feel safe to explore, challenge, and of course imagine. Yeah, and then again, if we want to build this culture of innovation, we just need to stop running and start playing. I see this in a lot of agencies. The people, they're running for deadlines, they're running to talk with clients, they're running to approve stuff, and there's no time to just sit and explore and play and see how we can improve that ideas. And again, that's where I see the innovation happening. So actually, we need to stop measuring productivity by business, right? We need to start measuring by breakthroughs. We need to stop thinking of failure as a risk, okay, please, and start seeing as a learning process. It's important to fail. And we need to stop waiting for great ideas to just emerge. It doesn't happen like that. We need to start creating the conditions where these ideas can naturally thrive. Because true innovation doesn't happen in a meeting room, as I've been saying it. It happens when people feel free to experiment, to feel free to challenge, and to push boundaries. So that's all, and hope you enjoy it, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Martin. Appreciate it. Some really great insights. And yes, I love the quote that the master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. And I think that is what we as marketing seniors, or I think I think myself as senior because I'm a little bit older, but that we need to emphasize this for everyone starting, that innovation only comes from trial and error and working with a team and many of the things that you mentioned. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much.
And I think if anyone wants to connect with Martin, his LinkedIn profile is open, so I can see some comments happening there.
Please
so
do it.
Feel free to do that, I think. So
Yes.
thank you, Martin. Next up, we have
Thank you very much.
another great speaker, Ku Govender, CEO of Publicis Group Africa. Ku brings almost 30 years of advertising experience to the table, and today she'll be talking about how to integrate media and creative back to unified offering. So please, everyone, give her a big virtual welcome. I'm hoping she is there. I think I spotted her earlier, so let's see.
Afternoon, everyone. I come from the broadcasting industry, and it's another take two. So I just wanted to say, integrating media into a unified offering and future-proofing our industry. The reason I chose this topic is I'm extremely passionate about this industry, passionate about future-proofing this industry for us as agency and people in advertising to stay relevant to clients and to consumers. So today we'll explore how advertising has evolved over the decades and why media and creative must reunite for success in a fragmented digital era. As clients continue investing in innovation and marketing to drive high volume growth, it is essential that we as agencies provide them with cohesive, integrated solution. This presentation will demonstrate how integrating media, creative, and digital strategies enable us to thrive in today's complex landscape while ensuring effectiveness and impact. And we all know that when you go to a client, that's what they want. Are they getting the effectiveness? Are they getting the impact? Are they getting the value, which is the return on investment? So it's time to rethink media and creative effectiveness, just not to meet today's challenge, but actually to future-proof our industry in terms of what's next. So advertising has transformed significantly over decades. So I'm going to go right back to the 1950s, and I think most of us were not born then. We had such iconic TV ads such as Coca-Cola, and I'd like to buy the world a Coke, define the golden era of storytelling. And if we fast forward to today, to brands leveraging influencer marketing and personalized digital campaigns, this evolution sets the stage for why collaboration and integration between media and creative is vital than ever before. And if we look at what clients want as well, they're always looking, most of the time, for an integrated solution as well. So traditionally, media and creative worked seamlessly together under one roof, and these were many, many, many moons ago. However, as the industry grew, silos emerged, leading to disjointed campaigns, inconsistent messaging, and a poor return on investment. And today I'll share how reconnecting these disciplines can unlock more cohesive and impactful strategies for clients and brands. And I think some of the agencies are already doing that. For one, I know that Publicis is doing that as well in terms of getting more integrated in a media and creative and digital offering. So I just want to take you a little bit through the past. In the past, with limited channels like print, everyone goes, oh, wow, print, radio, TV, media, and creative collaborated closely to craft compelling, unified stories. And what I love about this was the campaigns were focused on broad audiences and emotional narratives. However, the simpler model freed us from today's digital distractions, but strong brand loyalty. As much as it reached the masses, but one of the objectives that was reached was the strong brand loyalty. And Philip has taken you through the history, so I'm going to touch on a few key points on the aspects of the history of advertising as well. So in today's landscape, as we've spoken about, the media landscape is completely fragmented, from social platforms to OTT services like Netflix and podcasts. Consumers are segmented into micro audiences with shorter attention spans. And believe it or not, on average, our attention span is only 8.25 seconds. And the readings that I've done is a goldfish has a greater attention span than a human being on these days. Data and analytics drive campaigns, but without media and creative alignment, insights often get lost in execution. And this is where we miss the mark on the right target marketing to the right audiences as well. And if you look at marketers today, they are challenged to navigate an increasingly fragmented media landscape to actually make an impact and return on investment for their brands. So how do we as an industry and as an advertising and communication industry stay relevant to marketeers and also to our consumers? So I'm going to take you through a previous agency structure versus the modern models. Just to iterate, we looked at past and present. Now let's look how it all plays into one another. Previously, full-service agencies housed media, creative, production, all under one roof, fostering quick collaboration. Now, specialized agencies often operate independently, resulting in fragmented workflows and inconsistent messaging. As they say, a mechanic's car goes unfixed. Communication agencies often face their greatest challenge in internal collaboration. And the reason I'm really stressing on this is I'm looking at what is the future of the industry, but how else are we actually future-proofing our industry as well? So separating media and creative function has led to several issues. Misaligned strategies often produce disjointed campaigns, while valuable media insights are actually underutilized in creative development. This especially is problematic in digital campaigns where data and storytelling must work hand in hand. And I believe, coming from this industry and having a long industry, tech, data, creative are all intertwined together. And addressing these silos is key to delivering cohesive and impactful advertising. And a key thing to understand here is that digital drives data and data enables the storytelling. So I'm going to take you through a journey of a case of collaboration. I'll share the case study with you shortly. Collaboration between media and creative is essential. Media provides valuable insights and data, while creative translates those insights into emotionally engaging stories. And this is where brand loyalty resonates as well. And together they can craft cohesive campaigns that can actually attend to today's fragmented audiences. A great example is real-time social media campaigns where media insights inform creative tweaks to maximize engagement. So I've already spoken to you in terms of integration enables data-driven creativity, allowing analytics to shape storytelling. And I want to take you through this example in terms of these approaches not only enhance audience engagement, but also improve ROI. We did the maths by 31%, proving that alignment isn't just beneficial, but actually really necessary. So how does it translate into a campaign? So I'm going to take you into this campaign that has allowed us to create content dynamically, ultimately resulting in a viral hit. And this case study shows how integration can drive both creativity and measurable success. So I'm going to play
Just like
this.
Africa is not a country, South Africa is not one shade. It's a multi-hued landscape. Many beauty brands forget this. But Rimmel Lasting Finish 35-Hour Foundation added more shades to complement and accentuate African skin tones, a must in Mzansi. While our competitors' products always showed how they'd make you beautiful over time, we enabled people to experience beauty in real time. They got the opportunity to try our foundation, to bring out their beauty immediately. But it didn't just stop there. We collaborated with Polygon as our media partner, who utilized proprietary tech from Vista's ad server, enabling us to do what our competitors couldn't: make our consumers the face of our brand on digital out-of-home sites in real time. Vista's innovative supply-side platform enabled us to create a format to easily send selected images to any of the 108 digital out-of-home sites across the country. The key was using a combination of smart geo-targeted media buying and AI-assisted naming convention of the image file. This enabled the person's pic of them glammed up to appear within 30 minutes on digital billboards around the activation area and surrounds, allowing them to see themselves in a different light in real time. 121 faces of all shades, 108 sites across 2 cities, one powerful statement. Because while most makeup is used to cover up, Rimmel uncovered and shared beauty in real time. Rimmel Lasting Finish 35-Hour Foundation. There when you need it.
I think this for me is proof in terms of the integration of advertising and where we should be going in the future as well. And to bridge the gap, we need to foster cross-functional teams where media, digital, and creative collaborate from the start. And I think I want to make a point. We don't do that from the start. And I think that is really, really important. Aligning goals and KPIs in terms is essential for consistency, is essential for success. Investing in integrated tools for data, planning and work stream processes as well. And while communication stays open, because I think sometimes we're quite territorial in terms of agencies and therefore encourage the collaboration to deliver on cohesive campaigns and break down silos. So where to from here? Emerging from platforms from AR to AI-driven personalization will redefine the future of advertising. Success requires adaptability and a completely unified approach. Media and creative integration, including digital, will be key to responding and shifting to audience behaviors and new technologies. So reuniting for impact, the challenge of today's fragmented advertising landscape and really the collaboration is more important than ever before. And I'm really stressing on this in terms of reuniting media, creative and digital functions so we can create really impactful campaigns that is for modern advertising, and also to look at the future of advertising as well. So let's embrace this integrated approach to unlock our full potential and lead the way forward in terms of what our clients want and what brands are looking for as well. So I say this in terms of the future of advertising. Our power lies in unity. If we continue operating in silos, we add to the chaos rather than solving it. And the future belongs to agencies that really integrate solutions with media, digital, and offer a full integration model, which gives clients just not campaigns, day-to-day campaigns, but a clarity with impact and real business results, but also a very cohesive strategy from end to end. And I just want to say this in closing, and I kind of rushed through my presentation due to the technical glitch. When we collaborate, we just don't stay relevant. We actually become indispensable. And I just want to repeat this, especially to our clients. We should be looking as agency partners. We should become indispensable to our clients. And with that, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ku. Appreciate it. It was amazing to see. We had some similarities, so great minds think alike. That is great to see. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil. Hi, everyone.
Hello, hello. So big welcome, Ben. I think we just had some technical issues. So yes, you can get started earlier. So a little bit of an introduction. I think you can do it better than me, but Ben Dimon, Global Commercial Director for Lumen. So Ben brings 17 years of ad tech experience and will hopefully be talking a little bit more about attention and how Lumen Research has done over the last couple of years and how to turn attention into action. So yes, welcome, Ben.
Thank you. Is my screen showing up?
It's perfect, yes. I'll remove myself from the equation.
Well, thank you very much, and great to be here this morning at the Brand Summit. We're very pleased also to partner with Eskimi as a partner to measure campaigns for them. So measuring attention across a range of ad formats and across media activation. My name is Ben Diamond. I'm the commercial director over at Lumen Research, and what we want to speak about today is turning attention into action. Now, in the dynamic world of marketing, ad effectiveness has emerged to become one of the most crucial considerations for marketers today. I'm sure some of you would have heard of the sort of semi-famous quote, which is, "Half of the money I spend in advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know what half." And that quote is actually from over 100 years ago, but that challenge is still apparent today. Luckily, modern marketers have access to much more sophisticated tools and technologies and metrics than we've ever had at our disposal before. And one of these, most recently, of course, is the ability to measure attention via understanding if people looked at the ad. And I'm sure if we went back 100 years and said to John Wanamaker, who I just quoted, we told him that in the future you'd be able to tell what ads people paid attention to and what ads people didn't, he'd be extremely happy. But luckily in 2025, it's not fiction, it's reality. And what we're going to talk about specifically today is a piece of research that we co-authored at Lumen, which looks to understand if people looking at ads does anything to outcomes, and specifically brand lift metrics. So I'm going to show you some results from that research today. First off, though, let's talk a little bit about who Lumen are, just very quickly to set the scene. So Lumen is an attention company. We work with our partners and our customers to help them understand, frankly, if people looked at their advertising or not. And really at the core of what we do, we have two technologies. We have are a piece of technology that we've developed that converts front-facing cameras of devices. So the camera on your laptop that you're probably looking at everyone right now, or the camera on your phone, convert that into a sophisticated eye tracking device. And what we can do with that technology is once now we've developed it, we deployed it into a panel environment, and that goes out to thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of panelists, where they consume content as normal on their device, and we're able to understand what ads they look at and what ads they don't look at. That's our first bit of technology, and because we've been going for over 11 years, it's the biggest eye tracking database in the world. So it gives us this wealth of understanding of what people look at and what they don't. The second technology is our predictive models. So the purpose of these predictive models is to allow us to work with our partners and our customers to measure attention on real-time campaigns, actual live media campaigns. So what we do, what the purpose of the model is, or how the model works, is it's able to import live campaign signals, behavioral signals, environmental signals, and cross-reference that with the massive eye tracking database that it's sat on top of, and able to give predictions on attention for live campaigns. And what this allows us to do is work with our customers and provide tools around measurement and analysis of live campaigns, provide optimization tools, marketplaces, and link to outcomes like things like econometrics and brand lift, which we're going to speak about today. So that's what we do as a very top line at Lumen. Like I say, we've been in the space for 11 years. Myself personally, I've been in the space for 6 years, so I'm sort of well versed in the world of attention. And really, I think there's a certain fundamental link with attention and advertising. I'm sure probably everyone on the call today would agree that certainly in visual mediums of advertising, ads that don't get looked at aren't able to be effective. So if we want an ad to help drive people to remember our brand, or we want an ad to drive people to go and buy a product, they have to look at the ad in order for it to do those things. And so really, as I say, attention is fundamental to advertising effectiveness. The point of the research that we carried out is really to make sure that this isn't just conceptual, but also has scientific truth to it. But we wanted to unpack some of the detail around that. So not just, is attention important to outcomes, but there's nuance there. Do we care how much attention it is? Does that matter? Does it change for different goals? Because not everything is just a general outcome goal. You have specific outcome goals. And do we need different levels of attention for those different goals? Should we consider attention on individual ad placements or over the multiple impressions into an aggregate attention? So we look to answer all these hypotheses in this piece of research. Now, before I show you some of the findings from the research, some of you today might ask, and we get asked sometimes this question, but if I can measure the outcome, why do I need to measure attention? And that's a good question. And the answer to that question is that attention is a leading indicator rather than a lagging indicator. And what that means is you don't find a lagging indicator is typically you'll find out the results after the campaign's finished and some analysis has been performed. A leading indicator allows you to understand whilst campaigns are running. And that means if you can correlate attention to your outcome, the thing you care about the most, it becomes a really important leading indicator and can help you drive that outcome. And it has all these characteristics that people who plan and buy media find extremely useful, in the fact that it's non-sparse, which means you can measure it at scale across every single impression of your plan. It also, that non-sparse element means you can go granular. You can find out really granular details about where you are getting attention. It's available in real time, and that's great because we can find out how our campaign is doing as the campaign is running rather than afterwards. And it's actionable, which means you can intervene. You can make decisions in real time based on it. You can decide whether to buy this ad spot or this ad spot. You can make optimizations. You can build marketplaces. You can buy it based on an outcome. There's lots and lots of things you can do based on the fact of those characteristics. But essentially, most importantly, attention is not the outcome, but it's an incredibly powerful indicator of outcomes, and therefore it's really useful for planning and buying. So this is the research. Just to call out, we didn't do this alone. We had partners, and the partners were up on screen. Havas was our media agency partner. And Brand Metrics was the brand lift partner for this piece of research. So Lumen brought the attention data to the party. We were able to bring the data that said whether people looked at the ads, and Brand Metrics brought the brand lift data to the party. So they were able to say whether people were more aware and consider the brand, etc. More so. The important thing just to call out on Brand Metrics and why it was so great to have a partnership with them on this particular research is they've got two quite unique elements of how they operate. The first thing is they're extremely consistent with the questions they ask. They don't ask lots and lots of different questions. They ask 4 questions, and we work back to 4 key metrics, which are awareness, consideration, preference, and action intent. And the reason I call that out is when every single time you're going back to those 4 same consistent questions, it means that the amount of data that we have in the research is even more robust because it's always coming back to the same things. The second thing is that they're able to collect their data in the ecosystem where the ad was served, rather than off in a panel somewhere. And what that means is you can get an understanding of frequency. Maybe someone got served an ad 7 times, and then the 8th time they got surveyed. Well, we're able to understand the impact of those collective 8 ads, and Lumen's able to measure the attention of those 8 ads. And this what gives us a really good understanding of how frequency impacts campaigns. And we've got a key learning around that, which I'll show you. But you can see on the screen that the research itself, over 9,000 campaigns analysed, over 1.8 million respondents analysed as part of this research. So really, really big numbers here in terms of the type of research we've done, linking eye tracking to brand outcomes. It's the biggest that's ever been done. And so you can sort of take the learnings that we'll give you here to the bank, and rely on the fact that they're based on robust data. So let's look at some of the key learnings that we found. And like I say, we're not going into lots and lots of detail today because we've just got a short session. But the white paper itself is available on our website. So go to Lumen research website, and you'll be able to download it, or message me after this talk, and I'll be very happy to send it over to you as well. So we won't go into deep dive into methodology, but it's all available there for you in the white paper if you would like to look some more at that. In terms of the key learnings, there were actually 5 key learnings, but we've distilled it down into 3 today for the ones that we think are most important for today's session. And the first key learning is that when we looked at, so I'll just explain actually what's on the screen first. So obviously bringing these 2 data sets together, we have the brand lift on the y-axis. So it shows how much brand lift increased. And on the x-axis, we have the attention data in seconds. The different color lines you can see there are the different metrics that were measured. So as I mentioned earlier, Brand Metrics always works back to the same 4 metrics. So awareness, are you aware of this brand? Consideration, are you considering this brand? Preference, is this brand a preference to you? Action intent, are you going to go out and buy this product or this service? And what the first call out I think is important is if you look at where attention is 0, brand lift is also 0. Essentially, what we can see here is that, as we said before, that what we think about conceptually is true scientifically as well. Ads that don't get looked at don't drive lift, and I think it makes a lot of sense that is the case. But good that it's backed up with this data. But what about ads that are greater than 0 attention? Well, what you can see is as attention grows, you can see that brand lift grows, obviously slightly steeper at the beginning and becomes plateau slightly. But what we can definitely conclude from these learnings is that there is a correlation between attention increasing and brand lift increasing. And therefore, we can say that there is definitely attention is definitely a driver of lift. And if you were to take a key takeaway from this, you would say if you're able to measure attention and you're able to identify what ads get no attention, you could definitely avoid buying those, and that will help you avoid wastage and help you invest your ad dollars elsewhere. But also when you're getting more attention, you're able to typically drive more lift. Another key learning that we pulled out of this is all about looking at exposures individually or looking at exposures in aggregate. And actually, what we did for this research is we found that the amount of exposures that were more than single exposures was generally for most of the people that we surveyed. So majority of people were exposed to more than one ad. And that makes sense because that's sort of how advertising works, isn't it? You know, we don't typically put one ad in front of someone and then expect for that to work. Advertising works in terms of lots of little slithers of attention or lots of ads exposures to individual users. And then you hope that one of those messages sort of goes in and helps them remember your brand or consider. So when we looked at, going back one slide, when we looked at this sort of attention time, this is aggregate attention time. This is the amount of attention time in total. And so it's an important takeaway really that frequency, whilst actually sometimes in the industry frequency, we try to sort of limit frequency and cap it. And what this shows is that actually frequency is important, especially in the world of advertising across the World Wide Web, in web environments. You need to buy a bit of frequency. You need a bit of frequency because what we found is that it all adds up. I like to think of it as little nudges of attention that help drive the overall outcome. And actually, in a world where because of identifier crackdown, it's becoming harder and harder to actually enforce frequency and cap frequency when we don't know individual identifiers of users. But actually, what this research shows is that doesn't become as much of a problem as we think, because multiple exposures to users is actually a good thing at building brand outcomes. Of course, you don't want to spam people, and of course, all of those impressions, you need them to have attention, but multiple bits of attention clocks up to be very powerful for brands. And the third and final learning of this morning is that different patterns of attention are needed for different objectives. So this is kind of answering a question or hypothesis that outcomes aren't all the same. They all have there's a nuance to it. So, if we're wanting people to be aware of our brand or consider our brand, what this research or this data showed us was that higher frequency of ads that had fleeting attention per impression, so they had small little bits of attention, were actually very powerful at driving awareness and consideration. And the way I like to look at this is these little nudges of attention, just reminding you about this brand so that it goes into your memory and goes into your consideration set. However, if we're wanting to push slightly further down the funnel and get people to add the brand to the preference list or to intend to go and buy something, what we found is longer duration attention was more powerful. So ads where people spent more time with them and spent more time consuming the message and absorbing the message was better correlated to driving preference and intent campaigns. So there's a sort of horses for courses element of the results that we found, and we think that it's really important that we sort of show these type of things to the industry, because sometimes it can bust some myths that exist. But overall, the research that we've carried out is directional. You know, it's amassed from 9,000 campaigns, all from different brands, all from different categories. It's a very good overall understanding of how attention links to outcomes. But of course, there is nothing better than doing your own work for your own specific brand. Every brand is different. Every brand has a different audience. Every brand has slightly different nuance. And therefore, we actually encourage brands to come and work with Lumen to do this work, carry out this work, so we can help them understand what attention they require to drive certain goals that are important to them. And we find that's always the best way. Just in summary, as I think I'm probably at time now, just the three takeaways from this research. The first one is that attention does drive action, and we're all very, very happy that that was the case, because of course it's a big part of what we do at Lumen. And the key takeaway here is that as attention is a real-time metric, brands can use it to measure your campaigns and optimize your campaigns. Make sure you avoid placements that get no attention, and try to skew your campaign budget into places where you get more attention. The second learning was that aggregate attention is key. So working with publishers and platform partners who can provide frequency to achieve attention time in aggregate is important. And lastly, that attention can be different for different objectives. So it's not a one size fits all when it comes to attention. Depending on what you're looking to do, you might want a slightly different attention strategy. If you're trying to drive awareness and consideration objectives, it might be better to buy multiple good enough attention ads. Whereas if you're trying to drive things like preference and action intent, consider having more impressions where you get higher attention in a single shot on the ad. And that was it really for me. I'm not sure if we have time for questions, but I'll sort of hand back to the team at Eskimi.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. And yeah, we're running a little bit out of time, but I think everyone can connect with you on LinkedIn if there's anything. And yes, I would suggest everyone to try out Lumen, either through us or directly. I don't care. I just want you guys to focus on attention. It is one of my favorite new metrics. So thank you very much, Ben. I appreciate the time. And yes, and we have the final speaker. We unfortunately have a little bit of a cancellation last minute, but we still have an amazing speaker left, also from South Africa. So please welcome Maketa. Maketa is the Chief Data and Digital Marketing Officer for L'Oreal, bringing 25 years of experience. So from one of the largest brands in the world. So great to have you here, and an honor to have you present.
Thank you. Just to introduce myself, I am Maketa. I work for L'Oreal. And of course, we are all about brand and branding. So we're going to look at a little bit about how this landscape of brands has changed, and really how to make an impact. And it really does boil down, thank you, you can move slides, to this idea of being a cultural leader. Because, and I think it links to Martin's presentation, we know people don't buy products. You can make innovation, you can make it in the form of a product, but what they really buy is what you are standing for and the culture you stand for. So on the next slide, I think we're, I suppose, very fortunate at L'Oreal to work with many, many partners, talking to Ku's presentation, and leverage that strength across knowledge building. In this particular instance, a collaboration between Rebellion and L'Oreal was a fit for culture type of research, where we're able to see how brands, and how it's super important for brands to move from a purpose-led brand, which, again, having been in this industry for probably about 25 years, it's been about 10 years. Brands are going purpose, 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 super important. But I think it's taking that purpose and making it come to life and really resonating with people around you, to make sure that your purpose and your values are aligned to ultimately what they're seeking. I was fortunate enough to work in the development team in Paris, and my boss was super creative, used to say, consumers don't know what they want. You need to come up with what they want before they even know it. And I think it's really important to tap in to those nuances, which are their values, their needs, their pain points, to try to have a sense of where they are going. So on the next slide, I think whilst as brands, it's difficult for us to move from a place of this is our brand, this is our purpose, how do we safeguard that? And I hear everybody going, you've got to be creative and you've got to be more flexible. And why are we not creating AI-led creative, which is super cool. But we want to safeguard those values. And the question is, how do we pivot? And I think it's one of these sexy words that everybody's talking about. And this tension between safeguarding our values, but also moving with people as they evolve and as they create their own expressions of the world. So I think the way that I see it is, it's not that you need to change your brand values, it's you need to 100% affirm them, but it's how you choose to express them in respect of where you show up and how you show up. And I think that's more on the media part. How you apply them to different contexts. So being smart in where you inject yourself into the conversations that you show up in that mimic your values and potentially the people that obviously resonate with your brand and you want them to resonate with your brand. And sometimes to reinvent or reinterpret your values slightly in the context of how things are going. So I've got a few examples on the next slide with respect of, a framework that was developed. And I think it talks to the 4 points, which we'll unpack a little bit. And the most important one is starting as, ground zero. That's why it's not one, is really starting with who is your tribe. So if we move on to the next slide, I think not every brand is made for everyone. And I think that's an important statement. But at the same time, big brands struggled with that because we need many tribes and many personas in order to really give big brands the scale that they require to be the size that they fundamentally are. But it really does boil down to stop thinking in personas and start adopting this mentality of tribes. And again, it's much easier maybe to be an indie brand and you've got a certain value and a certain tribe that you're trying to appeal to. But as big brands, we need to try to use the tech on hand that there is so much of to try to gather as many segments and tribes that we can expose our brands to and really resonate with. So I think that's the most important piece. And then target our media in a way that talks to these particular tribes. The second or the first thing is really when you want to become a cultural leader, you need to build your products in a way that they're reflective of those consumer needs. As I said, before consumers are not going to tell you what it is that they want, but you got to get a sense of what they want. So if we look at some of the examples, you can see one of the examples on stage, Remova, which really tapped into culture, this pop culture, and really trying, it's an era where you want to be able to co-create and design. So they really tapped into that aspect of it. The one that I really love is Colgate, and I think it's twofold because on a broader scale, understanding of what their consumers want, linked to their values, they understood that there was this whole thing about naturality and people didn't want as many I suppose chemicals, if you want to call it that, probably not the right word to use, but not natural ingredients. So they went and created a natural range, but that isn't actually the cool part. After they had created it, they could see through the conversations online, what we call weak signals, is that people were using this product in an unusual way. So, you know, and this is where brand marketers, it's really, really important to be in those communities and be in those community chats and be using your social listening to really hone in to that conversation. And they found out that certain hair types were looking to cleanse their scalp with this product because, of course, it's sulfate free, because, of course, it's free of all these other ingredients and stuff. So they really took it to the next level. And with that resonance, pulled in that cultural nuance, and we're able to propose something and play a little bit with the brand. And, you know, I suppose more than a toothpaste, it became a hair product. So, and it's this unusual place where you're now all of a sudden showing up, and that's what gets you views. That's what gets excitement. That's what resonates with consumers. And then, of course, things like, you know, adding on and really augmenting. We're talking about the augmented era, which it totally is, the experiences that we expect from our consumers. And this is our own brands. We're able to talk to us with the new launch of our holistic wellness generative chatbot. As you know, chatbots are everything these days. They're going to do it for you. They're going to clean your house, and they're going to make sure you have the right makeup. So 100% there, it's being part of people's lives in a way that matters. Some of the examples is if you want to build a brand on the next slide, which is cultivating brand culture, you need to find them. You need to be part of their lives. And you need to do this by defining universes and communities where your brand and them intercept. So I think a really cool, just got to get rid of my Teams meeting that just popped up, apologies. So a really cool collaboration, and I think collaborations are also one of the ways to do it, is this Maison Chateau Rouge and Jordan. So it's a French brand that is very much rooted in African culture. And ultimately what they were doing is finding a win-win, finding a brand that they resonate with. Of course, you know, Jordan for its basketball, for them, for really pushing the social agenda that they feel for so strongly. And really then, again, it helps reaffirm why that brand is a cultural leader. But again, for a particular crowd or a particular tribe, right? Don't try to be something to everybody. Try to be the thing for the people that really believe in your brand. Of course, talking to that as well, and the rise of fandoms. And I have a child, and he idolizes gamers, and a third of the world's population is somehow involved in gaming. So whether you're watching it, whether you are 100% consumed in that area of it or playing it, it is important for brands to show up there. It comes across as authentic to the people because, again, as long as your brand values and your brand, you know, is aligned to that particular environment, it's quite natural for people, and they want to engage it and they want to be part of it. And then the third part is really making sure that we reinforce those proximities. And I saw a really lovely quote, and we've been using it in the company. It says, you know, people want brands to allow them to use their brands. So they want to, you know, it's this whole era of affirmation. I affirm you, but you must also affirm me. So the space where you're able to say like, hey, you know, I am Samsung, or I am L'Oreal, or I am Garnier. And I think the Rimmel example is a good one of that, is bringing it to the people to say, you can be part of, I'm going to let you use my brand. And for that, we're going to have a win-win collaboration that expands further than just my brand or you, but really it becomes something much, much bigger. And then the last thing on that framework, which is the third thing, is really making sure that you move from backward looking to forward looking. So if you want to be a cultural leader, you ultimately want to be able to find that purposeful thing that your community or your people want to be part of and drive it. And again, it's, you know, sometimes it can be things that are, you know, and we're all very cautious about this, but it sometimes can be things that are a little bit charged, you know, but maybe that's what's going to get talkability and stuff. So I think it's a great framework which summarized in the next slide in terms of the 6 points. And I'm sure you can also just look those up online. But really, in order to have cultural leadership, there are these 6 rules that talk into the piece that we spoke about, because ultimately what we want to do is use these points in order to connect to our communities, in order to make sure that our content and our messaging is connecting with the consumers. So at L'Oreal, and I think if you skip over to the next slide, and because this is about brand and impact and media, we want to be able to see how we seize the moment from a media perspective and specifically from an advertising perspective. So we have got 4 or 5 different principles, which are linked to the video that you're about to see next. So we've defined the world's next already a few years ago in the video that you'll see. So I'll give you a minute to play it, and then we'll talk through how we try to connect with our communities through the different advertising tools to address those different shifts. Oh, next slide. You can just maybe skip one, I think. Oh, that's interesting. There was a video. Yeah. Well, I can probably talk through it if it isn't there, just for the sake of time, no problem. So I'm just actually going to put it up here. But fundamentally, and I think in the space of media, and I do love this one because we work in companies where you're able to say, you know, what people in the boardroom are, and people have also said this, and what people really want to see. So they don't want to hear about your product launches. They don't want to just hear that you've come up with sustainability or services or whatever. You know, they have their interests. And as long as you're addressing those particular interests in a way that's meaningful, then it's going to be impactful and relevant to them. So basically, one of the key things that we've done at L'Oreal is we've looked at the key shifts in beauty, and some of them which we would have seen in the video, and I will name them. There's 5 shifts that we identified, going from all-inclusive to trust and transparency. And this is really just around the COVID times and just a little bit before that. And we only see that being amplified even more as we see trust becoming a really, really big thing. Value sensitivity. So it's an interesting one because we are, again, quite polarized. We want things that are inexpensive, I'm going to call it, but at the same time, we want super uber luxury, you know, and it's the same person that's actually wanting both things. So again, it's a question of that brand offering and what does value really mean? Because value's got nothing to do with price. It's got to do with the link between price and what you're offering me. I always use the example of an iPhone, like no matter which country you look at, and we live in Africa, so many people have got this device that really is definitely not inexpensive, but really is clearly delivering the value that it needs for people to feel that it's important enough to pay for it. And then, of course, ultra-potent science and health and wellness, which are some of the areas that we feel are going to be super important to explore from a territorial point of view. And we see that in the app that I showed you because it's a holistic type of approach to beauty and, of course, to any brand as well. So if we go to the next slide, fundamentally, if we want the 2 worlds to merge, we need to make sure that our brands, what they stand for, and the brand assets and the way we design the brand assets talk to these values, talk to these fundamental shifts, and resonate with these tribes in order to be able to have a meaningful engagement with the content that we create. Next slide. Maybe we'll hit the video. I didn't hear any sound, but maybe that's just me. Yeah, there's no sound. Philip, I'm not sure if if it's my sound or yours. No, no sound. Hey, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm not sure we could hear that, but that's why, I suppose as brand as marketers, we also learn always put text so that you can read. So really how we're transcribing this cultural aspect of it is, just got a thing, is trying to have this all-inclusive singular type of approach by making sure that, there is this specific targeting, and I suppose it talks to your technology and the things that we often do as brand marketers to make sure that we are having this individualistic approach. It's not just a spray and pray. We are having those conversations with the right people. On the next one, it really talks to making sure that our content, if you want to just maybe go 3 or 4 times, and I'll talk to them all at once. If they can pop up at the same time, brilliant. You can just stop there. So basically, escapism is a must. And in fact, post that video that you would have seen, escapism has been added as one of the new ones, and it's this need to escape. People are seeing, and we've heard any number between 5,000 and 10,000 pieces of advertising in a given day. That is crazy. So we are just bombarded with messages. So really this need to be in the right spaces, the curated spaces where people can and are escaping, and you don't come across as overwhelming, I think has become really, really important. Obviously, inclusivity and making sure that there is, fit for everybody from an age perspective, race perspective, gender perspective, any, you know, aspect of those has really, really become important. And then the really interesting topic, which is generative AI and creation, which we feel quite strongly for at L'Oreal, that we won't put out generated ads because we are about selling to real people. Most certainly, you know, using it for product shots and enhancing our ability as marketers to project ourselves forward. But fundamentally, we want beauties to be as real as possible. So it's one of those things that's there 100% to empower you, but not necessarily from a group standpoint, something that we would ever put out there, which is being generated by an AI. And last click on that slide, which talk about the importance of the long-term and the short-term ROI, which talks to the framework that is the second last slide we're about to see, which fundamentally is our framework within the group for good content and content that resonates. Just next slide. Maybe just brilliant. Thank you. So, you know, content that wins, we've said, is culturally connected from a creative point of view, but also because of who it serves, it needs to be measured. And I think the Lumen presentation was really, really great. So it gives that idea of exactly what we're talking to and making sure we've got the right tools and processes in place to scale really, really good content. Because last slide is fundamentally, we know that content that builds brands is content that is loved. And as a result, and what we all want to do with our brands is not only have them be loved, but have them be bought. So that is me in a nutshell. Thank you.
Ta-da, perfect. Thank you very much, Marketa. Sorry for the technical issues. That is on me. Marketa did it all correctly. I am the bad guy here, so amazing. Thank you very much. Great to hear it from your point of view. So yeah, lots of things, lots of insights here. I think everybody has requested the recording and slides, so I think we'll share that afterwards. The technical issues will get resolved on that. We are completely done. As mentioned, we had a little bit of a we had a little bit of a speaker with technical issues. So we're done for today. So I appreciate everyone for joining, all of you taking time out of your busy schedule, especially the speakers. I really appreciate you. And thank you very much. And thank you all for joining, and see you on the next one.